NASCAR Coast to Coast, presented by Hercules Tire.
60 minutes of local, regional, and touring series interviews, news, and opinion. Now a couple of guys who think they'd make a great boy band. Kyle Rickey and Buddy Long.
They say when you win your first race, the rest come a bit easier. We'll ask Timmy Solomito if that is indeed the case after winning his third NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour race of the season this past Saturday in New Hampshire. We'll get an update on the NASCAR K&N Pro Series East from Series Director Chris Wright on what has been a very competitive season. And we'll hear from one of the young drivers that continues to make a name from himself north of the border, or for himself north of the border. Welcome to NASCAR Coast to Coast.
It's not herself, it is himself.
It is himself. For July 27th, 2016, Kyle Rickey, Buddy Long with you. It's been a while since we've done this together.
I told you I got one shot 2 weeks ago, and if I screwed that up, I was fired. And I didn't come back last week, and I begged for another shot. So if I do well today, we'll see what happens next week.
Last week was
great.
A fun time.
It was. You've had the opportunity to be at Eldora Speedway since the inception of the dirt track race for the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series, and having the Mighty Big Block Dirt Modifieds in there as well just made for an awesome show. And you and I are both people that pretty much monitor the goings-ons at a racetrack on both sides of the fence, and what a magnificent facility.
Yep.
Not just racetrack facility that Tony Stewart has, such a legendary place that Earl Baltus built, and with Tony's name now added to it as the owner for the last several years, what they do to accommodate the fans is absolutely phenomenal.
And while we were sitting in the grandstands for the modified race last Tuesday and Wednesday along with the trucks, that's why the NASCAR Coast to Coast show did not have a live video stream last week, and everything came from the New Hampshire Motor Speedway, which was kind of fitting because it seems like every series that was under the sun in NASCAR was in New Hampshire 2 weeks ago, including the NASCAR K&N Pro Series East and the NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour. The Modifieds we'll talk about on this show because Timmy Solomito went to Victory Lane, and boy, that team on fire right now. Not as hot as Doug Coby, but they're catching them.
And they have a great opportunity. They have tons of races. I mean, we're pretty much beginning to hit the halfway point of the season for the Modifieds when some of our other series are beginning to get to the second half of their season or begin to count down. They have, 9 strong left as far as races and a 34-point gap between Coby and Solomito. That's attainable, and we take you back to a year ago almost when Coby wrecked at Bristol and had quite a bit of catching up to do. Anything can happen at any time.
Timmy Solomito did win at the Monadnock Speedway this past Saturday night, the 8th race of the 2016 season for the NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour. He led all 200 laps en route to the win over Rowan Pennick, Jimmy Blewett, Eric Goodale, and Justin Bonsignor, the top 5. You ask yourself, where was Doug Coby? Well, he finished in the 6th spot, lost a few points, but still maintains a fairly healthy lead, 34 points between Doug Coby and Timmy Solomito, heading to their next race next Friday night at Stafford Motor Speedway. And we're just a couple of races, I think, from starting that streak at the end of the year where I think it's the last 7 races are at 7 different racetracks, including the return of Seekonk and Oswego.
Yeah, and not to talk out of both sides of my mouth when I mentioned Coby's wreck last year at Bristol, which made him have to play catch-up to win the championship. It is 9 races, and I would have to say I'm not counting on Coby having an issue like that, although it could happen. Timmy is just going to have to be almost letter perfect because Doug's going to have, if he doesn't win, he's going to have those top 5 or top 10s, and you're going to have to gain every point available to win this championship over Coby.
And if you listened to the show last week, Doug told us in New Hampshire that they just haven't had a bad race. Everybody else has run well. They've had 2 or 3 really good races and then have had a finish outside of the top 15 on the NASCAR Modified Tour with 25, 26 car fields every week. A finish outside of the top 15 is a pretty big hit.
Well, case in point, I mean, when Timmy won the Icebreaker at Thompson, he returned back to Stafford Motor Speedway or one of the racetracks right in there. And I know Stafford was a hot and cold experience the first 2. I think he had a top 5 maybe in the Sizzler
he did.
But he had an accident at Stafford in the next event. And he's gone from one extreme to the other, like a pair of 15th place finishes, a 23rd. And as you mentioned, in big fields, that's tough. You're losing a lot of points. Coby's able to pull away, but then he comes back and scores the big win at Riverhead and, has some so-so runs, some decent runs before he came back into Victory Lane once again a couple of weekends ago, or last weekend, I should say, last Sunday at Monadnock. So it's almost going to have to be letter perfect if you're going to beat Coby.
And we'll have a big field at the Bristol Motor Speedway in a couple of weeks, and we will be there for the action.
Yeah, we'll be
fun.
there Wednesday, but we'll have the show Wednesday as well,
Yeah,
right?
From the Bristol Motor Speedway, hopefully. We'll also talk with Chris Wright today. In fact, he's going to join us in studio here in just a few minutes. An extremely competitive NASCAR K&N Pro Series East, and I think we saw it coming at the beginning of the year. You know, the last couple of years, one driver has really been in the spotlight. Ben Rhodes a couple of years ago, William Byron was the dominant force, and we questioned ourselves at the banquet, who's that driver that's really going to shine this year? Will there be one? And so far, you know, Justin Haley has been consistent. He's the only repeat winner in the first, 9 events?
9 events, yeah.
But 7 brand new winners. Corey LaJoie returned to victory lane for the first time in 5 years, 6 years, a couple of weeks ago in New Hampshire. And a lot of different teams have shown a lot of strength this year.
Yeah, it's a great time for the program. I mean, a lot of good drivers. I mean, there's a great maturation process. A lot of drivers come in no sooner than they're there. You look at William Byron, Rico Abreu. They've already jumped up into the Camping World Truck Series, and they're having success there as well. So even though it's a very limited period of time that they are in the K&N Series, what is, again, fascinating, and I sound like a broken record so many times, the age of these kids, or lack thereof, I want to say, but the maturity level of these drivers. And they really don't have a veteran driver like an Eddie McDonald, as I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, in the garage, or anybody else to lean on. They're leaning on their veteran crew chiefs, or maybe their veteran owner, or maybe their veteran series director. Should I call him a veteran series director or just a series director?
It's year 3 for him.
Well, Chris is going to sit beside me in a moment, so he smacked me for saying that. Yeah. But no, I mean, they don't have another driver of a veteran status to lean on. And when you look at the attrition rate, again, or lack thereof, at K&N events, it's very small. You know, very competitive races, very small amount of drivers in the garage or pit area when the race is over, and some of the most competitive events that we have seen this year.
You wouldn't call 17-year-old Justin Haley a veteran?
I can't. I can't, not yet. No.
Chris will join us in a little bit to talk about the NASCAR K&N Pro Series East, and that is obviously they head to the Iowa Speedway this weekend for a combination event with the NASCAR K&N Pro Series West. Taylor Holdaway will also join us on the show, a driver that has caught fire up in the north the last couple of years, a run last year for the NASCAR Whelen All-American Series National Championship fell just short. This year, I think weather has maybe hindered them up in Canada. They've had a couple of rainouts, and when you're only running one track for a national championship, it's tough to get those national points, which is why he's 24th in the national standings right now.
He's halfway to his win total. I mean, he's got 6 this year. He had 12 a season ago, but again, the impressive mark, as you mentioned, was just competing at one facility when you're going up against a Lee Pulliam, a Keith Rocco, and back then last year a Thomas Tillison Jr., who had the 8 of 2 tracks, and this year has just got 1. He can do it. It's going to be a tough hill to climb. I'm not sure about a championship, but I think a top 10 run is still very much within his scope.
Taylor won this past weekend, a part of a twin program for the late models for the NASCAR Whelen All-American Series at the Sunset Speedway up in Canada, and he'll join us to talk about his season and kind of bring us up to date on what's happening in the world of NASCAR racing up north of the border. So we'll talk to him a little bit about that in just a little bit. But when we come back, we're going to talk to the NASCAR K&N Pro Series director, Chris Wright. He'll join us in studio here on NASCAR Coast to Coast.
NASCAR Coast to Coast will be right back on MRN.com.
O'Reilly. Keep your windows clean and see clearer with Gunk Glass Cleaner. Right now at O'Reilly Auto Parts, buy 1 bottle of Gunk Glass Cleaner and get 1 free. Gunk's high-performance ingredients clean glass and hard surfaces without leaving a film or residue. Gunk Glass Cleaner, buy 1, get 1 free at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day. Restrictions apply. See store for details.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Victory Junction was young race driver Adam Petty's dream. He worked toward building a camp where children with serious medical conditions could concentrate on fun and not their illness or disease. When he died tragically, his family and friends around NASCAR made sure that dream came true. Today, Victory Junction is a camp that provides fun, life-changing experiences to children dealing with illnesses and disabilities, all at no cost to the camper. Help us serve more children by visiting victoryjunction.org.
Missed the race this weekend?
Danica Patrick is up in flames. Hole Menard will crash.
Or just want to relive the best moments?
That was an amazing finish.
Catch all of the action and highlights right here.
Jimmy Johnson gets nailed and it's a big one.
It's the Sprint Cup replay getting you on the fast track to victory lane.
Woo!
Good job. Good job. Hampton, yes.
Don't be left out of the conversation Monday at work. Listen to the Sprint Cup replay on MRN.com Mondays at 7 a.m. and 1 p.m.
This is NASCAR Coast to Coast on MRN.com. Here's Kyle and Buddy.
Welcome back to NASCAR Coast to Coast here on the Motor Racing Network. Kyle, Ricky, Buddy Long, joined in studio now by the director of the NASCAR K&N Pro Series East, Christopher Wright. Chris, welcome back to the show.
Thank you guys for having me again.
Third season now in this
It
role?
is actually my third year, fourth season.
Fourth season?
Yeah, because I came in midway through 13.
Have you settled in, gotten comfortable?
That's a pretty loaded question right now.
Competitive season. 2016, been an amazing season for the NASCAR K&N Pro Series East. It's been fun to watch every week. Got to be happy with the competitiveness in the garage among the drivers with, 8 different winners in 9 races, and the teams. A lot of new teams coming into the series and a lot of new teams we're seeing in victory lane.
Yeah, it's been really gratifying. I mean, it's gratifying, to be a part of it, but secondly, the level of talent with the teams and the drivers is for me, it's probably certainly the most competitive year documented, as well as certainly the most competitive year that I've been here, and pretty cool to be a part of that. It really is. There's very talented kids in our garage. I think I can call them kids because they're close to my daughter's age.
Yeah,
but yeah, they're pretty comical to be around. I heard you guys talking about William Byron earlier. I remember last year going around Watkins Glen with him. I tried to take them all around different racetracks to kind of give them, you might not want to go here kind of things. And William says, I've never been here before. I just play it on iRace. And I said, well, it seems to be working for you right now. You might want to stick to it. So I'm very talented group right now.
When you look at what Williams accomplished moving up to the Camping World Truck Series, how proud are you to see a graduate in such a short period of time of your series adapt so well to another very tough environment, which is the Camping World Truck Series?
It's cool. And whenever I first came to work for NASCAR, someone made the statement to me that you're kind of going to start to take not necessarily ownership, but feel that you're part of the group that comes through your garage, and it's true. I mean, I still stay in contact with them. I mean, whether racing dirt races or whether racing the tours or what have you, I still stay in contact and rib them every now and then on Twitter. I actually want to ask William at this point in the game, since he's put 3 wins in a row now in Truck Series. Is that right? Or 2?
4 total, and then had
3.
Had a couple in a row going to Eldora.
And so I was going to ask him if he tells the media, I'll see you next week, because he's kind of getting to that point now. So, just so he can predetermine his location.
Last couple of years, we've talked a lot about H. Scott Motorsports, and man, they dominated the tour the last at least 2 seasons, maybe 3 seasons, with Dylan Kwasniewski and Ben Rhodes and William Byron, and more often than not finished 1, 2, 3, 4. Haven't really seen that this year. What have you seen as far as the influx of the teams? Martin McClure Racing came in. They've picked up a couple of wins. Rev Racing has stepped up. Jefferson Pitts Racing, Rainier Racing with MDM. They've got a couple of wins now. What's changed, if anything?
I think I don't really know, but it's kind of, I don't want to say comical, but it's kind of odd whenever you see people making wholesale changes in our garage. I mean, it's pretty obvious during practice or what have you. And if you look at our timesheets, a wholesale change is being indicated by 1/10 of a second. Right. So it's very competitive right now, and what has changed that, I don't know. There's a lot of similarities. The one thing that has changed this year, this is the first year that steel bodies weren't allowed in the series. However, a lot of that has kind of gone by the wayside through transition over the last couple of years anyways. I don't really know. I mean, there's always been talented ladies and gentlemen in the K&N garages. And it's funny you say that, because I actually had an owner that competes in different series earlier in the year, and it was during pre-inspections or what have you, and he was pretty heated, and he's like, yours is the toughest garage. Yours in the West is the toughest garage I've ever been to. And I'm thinking immediately, oh, gosh, what's happened? Because I thought there was something And he's like, no, you should be proud of it because what the level of competition right now is second to none. And pretty cool for somebody to tell you that.
Well, it paves the way and it prepares them for the next level. You're doing exactly what you need to do.
Well, and it's a lot of the guys that run the East also run the West,
Mm-hmm.
and vice versa. A lot of the guys that run West run East. So it's not secluded to one side of the coast or the other. But it's pretty cool right now. Like I said, to identify what the one change has been that's changed that, I think – I don't know what that is. I really don't, because the cars haven't changed.
Right.
Personnel's changed among different teams. Maybe you could point it to that. And guys are getting smarter. And at the end of the day, we all know there's no real secrets kept in racing. So maybe it's things that's kind of getting unfolded as time goes along too. Who knows?
Both series are extremely strong as far as car count, but they also have very good schedules as well. We promoted the West. It's just so diverse with such good short tracks, a good combination of that, medium-sized tracks and road courses. You guys this year on the eastern side obviously had the chance to experiment with a few new racetracks, tracks that have been around or brand-new tracks. I was at Dominion, looked to be a great event for you guys with one of the best finishes ever. Stafford, Mobile, heading to New Jersey Motorsports Park a little bit later in this year. You proud of the schedule you guys have been able to put together this year?
Yeah, it's I think it's been a good mix. The additional road race this year, we're obviously one above what we had typically been at. And I think that's kind of promoted some guys that possibly wouldn't run with you that are road race guys. I mean, let's be honest, that seems to be a kind of a trend or what have you, as far as certain guys being identified as an oval guy or road race guy, and it pulls from other series, which is good, and healthy for the series as well as the sport. But Mobile, that was a pretty cool place. As my first time there, between my travels, I'd never have had the opportunity to go there. Dominion, what a facility the people have built there. I mean, it's really cool that the facility and it was still in construction phase, and I can only imagine what it's going to look like when we say we're done, in their words, I guess, if you will. But now I'm pretty proud of it. Pretty pumped for next year. I think I certainly don't have any preliminary schedules or anything like that at this point, but I feel like we're in a good place to continue on, and pretty neat right now.
Okay, so you said you were happy about Birmingham. You enjoyed Dominion.
I know where this is
What
going.
about Stafford Motor
Yeah.
Speedway, one of my home racetracks up in Connecticut? The first time that you guys have been there in 7 years, I think. That's the last time.
Time to lower the chicken.
Maybe we could talk to a couple of our friends up there, you and I jointly, and see if we can't get them together. So maybe do more than just the one. How about that?
So you're saying there might be another track?
I didn't say that. You're trying to make me say things that I did not say. However,
I'm going to write it on a piece of paper and tell you what it is.
But there is another track in the Northeast that I would love to see the series back at, because they put on a great show at Stafford. It was a great show, and I mean, they did back when I was a part of that track back in the late 90s and early 2000s, whenever the Busch North Series and then the Camping World East Series and then now the K&N Series. Always a great show up there, and yes, I would love to see them back up in New England a little more.
Yeah, Mark and Lisa Rude, and I didn't touch on them, and I apologize for that. But no, it was fun to be up there. I had an opportunity to go up there with Jimmy Wilson earlier in the year with the Modified Tour, and what a place! I mean, the history there is pretty cool, and it's the Wall of Fame, if you will, behind the grandstands, seeing Jerry Cook and other guys that you've had an opportunity to be around, and it's pretty cool. And as we get older, as we seem to be heading in that direction, it's neat to see those guys and their history as well in the sport.
Absolutely. Things are on an upswing on your level, and below that, it seems like it's doing very good, which is the feeder system that leads up to you. Late model racing in a lot of different areas is doing very good. Go down another level, Legend Car Racing here in Charlotte has done well with their summer shootout series. Even on the level that I work full-time, karting's doing very well. Is there ever a concern, because you see so many drivers coming through year after year, but they're going right up into other levels of motorsports, whether it be the trucks, Xfinity, in Sprint Cup? Do you worry that sooner or later that well's going to run dry because there's been so many that have been churned through, or does the levels below you still look so positive that you still see so many more people wanting and looking to make their way to the K&N Pro Series East year after year? Does it look like it's going to be a process that will stay pretty flush for a good time?
In my opinion, yes. I mean, when I'm not at work, if you will, with our series or the other touring series, most time you can find me at a racetrack somewhere around, whether I'm in process of transport or traveling or what have you.
Dirt or asphalt, right?
Dirt or asphalt. I did grow up dirt racing, so I enjoy seeing dirt racing, but enjoy being part of asphalt too. I mean, based off of the tracks and facilities that I've been to when I'm not at work, I would say that things are looking pretty promising. And I certainly think that this year has been indicative of what could be coming up the channels, whether it be to the K&N or from the K&N series.
Good selling year this year for you. Good selling year.
It's been pretty cool. And you guys were talking about Corey LaJoie and like Corey, which was cool to see him win again. And Corey and I obviously talk a lot of times because he's John Holloman's crew chief when he's not in the driver's seat. And so I think that's probably some of the things that could possibly be feeding the level of competition is guys that are winning in the series are also team members for other folks when they're not driving. So, no, I think feel pretty good about things right now. And it's cool to watch our guys or girls go on. I mean, it's but you guys are right. There's not one person that you could identify as being a next Cup champion 5 years from now, or Xfinity champion or Truck Series champion, because it's very strong right now in both East and West.
Mentioned a little bit ago, you really don't have a schedule to talk about for next year, but for looking ahead to 2017, are there any goals right now on the table that you guys are looking at as far as rule changes or schedules or whatever the case is?
I would say from a rules standpoint, we actually identified a 3-year plan as far as the chassis, the bodies, with all the teams, and to give them an idea of the major components, if you will, as far as the changes over the next couple of years. Rules, I don't suspect there's going to be many changes, if any. However, we haven't had our rules meeting for this year. I mean, quite honestly, that's latter part of the year. As far as the schedule, I would assume that similar players that were on the schedule this year or racetracks will be there. I think the event at New Smyrna, I think that's has built itself to I don't want to say expected each year, but kind of that draw, like it's a cool venue to start the year, to kick the year off with the Daytona 500, with the Xfinity race, with the truck race at the big speedway, and I would like to see it stay very similar. But again, to say that I've seen anything that indicates that would be inaccurate. Okay. But I think the mix of national tracks versus short tracks is at a pretty good place. However, I think it's a touchy subject because you need both to help each other drive, but the more exposure seems to help promote things as well, from a team side, not only from a series side.
Right. At least 34 entries this weekend at what has become kind of the all-star race for the K&N Series. I know it's not labeled that, but the combo event at Iowa Speedway, the Casey's General Store 150, great collection of East and West drivers coming together. How proud are you of that and being a part of that combo event? And do you have any bragging rights with Kip Childress, our Western counterpart? Or is there a bet like mayors of different cities at Super Bowls have? If my guy wins, you owe me this, or if you win, he owes you that.
No, there's not, and at the end of the day, we have the approach that it's one series. You're right, it is become the battleground, if you will, to the east and west. I think with what Kip and his folks did last year there, I don't think I have many bragging rights right at the moment, if there is such. But I also think at the end of the day, we try to keep it as one series, and I'm proud of where we're at with that. as a matter of fact, when we go to Iowa, as far as from an officiating side of it, some of the East officials will go, some of the West officials, and Kip will be there. And likewise, if we were at the second venue this year, same deal. It's still one race, and we try to keep it unified as possible. And I think both series are there was probably a day where somebody could argue whether one had the advantage or not, but today I don't think that's the case. I mean, I think it's last year the West won both races out there. Brandon McReynolds, of course, was the guy that took them both home. And I feel like I'm very happy with where the bodies have gone. From a financial standpoint over the long term, I think that's really good for the series. And at the end of the day, it's good for the series. It's good for the competitors from the cost standpoint, as well as from not having to go cut your body off to feel that you're trying to get an advantage where everybody's on a very similar build. And when I say the only differences are the identity plates,
right,
as far as the manufacturers.
Mention a little bit before we wrap up. You mentioned a bit earlier some teams run both series. Noah Gregson's one driver running for the championship in both series. Has he selected how he's going to get points this weekend?
Yes,
he is supposed to bring the envelope out and tell us.
Well, we'll wait till the weekend. Keep you in suspense. No, actually, Noah and his in Jefferson Pitts Racing, they announced, I believe it was Monday, they are going to run the West as far as the driver's side. They're going to continue running East and West series. Actually, at
go to the phones.
That's Noah.
Actually, at Iowa, Spencer Davis is going to be in the second car for Pitts for the East side, for the owner side of it.
Good deal.
So yeah, pretty cool.
As always, thanks for taking some time to join us here on NASCAR Coast to Coast.
Likewise, thank you guys for
having me. We could fill an hour with you.
We
could.
For sure.
It's fun. It's always fun, and I enjoy talking with you guys, and hopefully we'll have more to talk about here in a few weeks.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you, guys.
Both series race at the Iowa Speedway this weekend, part of the NASCAR K&N Pro Series East-West combination event. When we come back, Timmy Solomito, the latest winner in the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour. He won up at Monadnock Speedway, and he'll join us after the break.
Coming back with more of NASCAR Coast to Coast, it's Kyle Rickey and Buddy Long right after this.
This is Steve Post, co-host of MRN's Wing Nation. We're heading the road to Knoxville, Iowa. Join Kendra Jacobs, Aaron Evernham, and me as we broadcast live from the 5-Hour Energy Knoxville Nationals, presented by Casey's General Store, August 10th through the 13th. Join us live in the Fan Zone from Knoxville Raceway or listen on MRN.com 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Wing Nation live from the Knoxville Nationals. You don't want to miss it.
MRN On Demand. Listen or watch when you want and where you want. Find all of MRN's original programs in the Media Center at MRN.com, as well as YouTube, iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, and Race Day Nation on iHeartRadio. Find NASCAR Live, Motorsports Monday, Winged Nation, NASCAR Coast to Coast, Pod Tracks, Sling and Dirt, The Inside Line, and The Straight Line. Motorsports programs when you want, where you want. MRN On Demand. Tuesdays at 1 p.m. Eastern, check out Sling and Dirt with David and Ashley Strim. They talk with dirt late model, dirt modified, and UMP modified drivers from all over America. Join David and Ashley on MRN.com, the MRN app, and YouTube as they give you the news, results, and their opinions of dirt track racing, plus interviews with the biggest race winners and newsmakers from New York to California and all dirt tracks in between. Sling and Dirt Tuesdays at 1 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, the MRN app, and MRN.com.
This is NASCAR K&N Pro East Series driver J.A. Jr., and you're listening to NASCAR Coast to Coast on MRN.com. Now back to you, Kyle and Buddy.
All right, welcome back to NASCAR Coast to Coast here on the Motor Racing Network. Kyle Rickey, Buddy Long, could talk NASCAR K&N Pro Series racing all day with Chris. Just a great director. Kip as well, and the NASCAR K&N Pro Series West. Both of them have giving a lot of their time to us the last couple of years, and we appreciate it.
They're really good guys, and another person that we can mention as well that is a big part of their K&M program that we saw graduate up into the Camping World Truck Series, Brad Moran, another member of NASCAR that will move up into the Camping World Truck Series ranks. But that's the great thing about them. They're all such good people, and we've had a great time, doing the new Smyrna, PA events, doing Greenville Pickens, helping wherever we could, doing the banquets down in Charlotte, or uptown Charlotte, I should say. It's just been fun all the way around, and when they see the effort by MRN doing what they're doing for these touring series of NASCAR and the Wheel and All-American Series, I mean, you can see the reciprocation by them so much.
Absolutely. Talk modified racing all day, too, and we're going to talk modified racing for a few minutes anyway with three-time winner now, Timmy Solomito. And Timmy, at the top of the show, we said, once you get that first win, the others seem to come a little bit easier. Does that seem to be the case right now for you and your team, picking up win number 3 this past Saturday night at Monadnock?
First off, thanks for having me on the show, guys. And, we've been doing a good job. The team's been preparing some really fast race cars, and the wins have been clicking off, which is always a good thing. You don't always have that. So I wouldn't say they come easier, but, they're definitely coming, which is good. So they've been hard fought, but we've been able to pull them out and do that this year. So far, so good. Hopefully we can just keep it going here.
Winning your first pole of the season at Monadnock one day later for the race because of weather issues and running it on Sunday. Picking up the third victory of the season, what made this such a dominating performance for you? You leading every lap. You had some challenges late in the event by Rowan Pennick, but this was a dominating performance. What made it such a dominating performance for you and your team?
It's funny. Actually, before New Hampshire, we knew Monadnock was coming up, and the previous 2 years we had gone there, once with Wayne Anderson and last year with the Flamingo Motorsports car. And we had actually struggled. I think I finished 15th and 18th were my two finishes there, and didn't really enjoy the track that much. Made a phone call to Les Henkley, another modified driver who's, I believe, a 6 or 7-time winner there at that speedway, and he gave me some great advice and talked me through laps at Monadnock Speedway, and changed my lineup, changed up a bunch of things that I was doing, and the guys unloaded a really fast car. We made pretty much no adjustments. We made a few very small adjustments, which made the car better. We bolted a set of tires on, and the car was very fast and very stable. So we knew we had a really good car, and just that track's a tough track. Both corners are completely different. It's bumpy, it's rough, it's got some character to it. So we just changed up a bunch of everything that we were doing, and going into the weekend, I was hoping for a top 5 finish, and to qualify on the pole and lead every lap was pretty incredible. The guys just gave me a great car, and it just shows you how good the team really is. Car was just prepared great.
You stayed out of trouble, as did just about everybody else, for like the third year in a row. The race took just 51 minutes to complete, 51 minutes and 32 seconds to be exact. It was the site of the only caution-free race that we have seen on the NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour in a long time, I believe 2 years ago. When you think of a quarter-mile racetrack with 23, 24 modifieds out there, you don't think of a race that will necessarily go caution-free or with even just 1 or 2 cautions. What about that racetrack promotes clean racing?
I think the track is just tough to drive in general. Thinking about a quarter mile, you always think there's going to be bumping and banging and yellows. For some reason, that track just doesn't produce that. It's tough to run on your own, so getting alongside of somebody, usually you get alongside of them, and, the outside groove isn't great there, especially through 3 and 4, so you can actually make some passes pretty quick. So you're not typically alongside of somebody for very long. It wears tires down really quick, so I think you have such a variation in speeds and lap times between competitors that I wouldn't say that there's not a lot of passing, but you're not alongside of somebody for a long time, and usually the cars tend to fall off pretty far there. So there's a fine edge of making sure that the car is fast, and there's a fine edge of making sure the car is going to be stable and last. And I think those are all contributing factors to why that race seems to go green for so long. I mean, it's just a tough track to run on your own, no mind alongside of somebody. So I think it makes it easier that when you make a pass, usually you go by the guy pretty quick and they fall back in line and you can go back racing.
Third win of the season. Of course, you kicked off the year with the icebreaker victory at Thompson Speedway Motorsports Park, heading to your home track at Riverhead, New York, of which you'll have a chance to go back in just a little while again for another tour race. But let's go back to New Hampshire Motor Speedway a couple of weekends ago. This was your second foray into the Whelen Modified All-Star Race, the only touring series of NASCAR, other than our Sprint Cup series, that has an All-Star Race. I know you've been there before. I believe it was with Wayne, or actually it might have been with the Flamingo team last year as well. What are your thoughts when you're out there? I know you have a tour event that you're running. New Hampshire's a magnificent facility when it comes to drafting, but when you're out there with a 20-car field and you're one of the 20 elite or 20 drivers that were picked to be in the All-Star race for one of the most awesome touring series that NASCAR has, what goes through your mind?
It's always a great feeling. It's a big confidence booster to be, a part of that race. And, it's also a good test for Saturday's race. We had a really good car in the first half. We seemed to struggle a little bit in the second. But just being at New Hampshire Motor Speedway in front of the crowd, and that's our Daytona 500. So when you're allowed to be in the All-Star race, you get chosen, and you race there on Saturday. It's a huge deal. That's a weekend that everybody wants to walk away a winner, regardless if it's the All-Star race or if it's the race on Saturday. So, it's a confidence booster. It shows you that you're doing something right, and it just gives you that extra bit of confidence that you need to keep running well and keep putting your head down and keep pushing forward to do better.
And a great crowd in New Hampshire on Saturday, especially with the triple header, with the Xfinity Series in action, the K&N Series in action. They ran after the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour ran. How much extra work goes into that weekend? Needing to, I don't know if you need to prepare two cars. I know some teams had two cars there, but at least prepare for two different races in 24 hours' time.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. It's extra tires to be mounted up for the crew guys, and, it's extra preparation at the end of the night. You got to, go through the car, make sure that everything's still tight, and, just go over everything. It's extra laps on the motor and stuff like that. So, we ended up preparing one car and ran both races with one car. So we kind of used the All-Star race to try and learn some things and see what we had to change for the next day to be better. Usually that's what we use that race for, and then we always say if we're in contention to go for it, then obviously all bets are off. We're going to try and go for it. But it's definitely a lot of work. It's a hot weekend up there. It was really, really warm, but the team did a great job, and we were able to prepare a pretty good race car, and we just missed it a little bit at the end, but now we know what we need to do for September.
Now we head pretty much into the second half of your racing season when a lot of groups are beginning to wind down. You've got 9 solid events left on the schedule, and as Kyle alluded to, most of those races left were going to be at different racetracks other than a Thompson or a Stafford, of which will be repeat racetracks this year. 34 points is the gap. Now, a year ago, we saw Doug Coby have his issues at Bristol. With the consistency, if not the victories that Doug has had this year, you still feel 9 races very attainable to catch Doug Coby and win this championship?
Yeah, we're not putting anything done. We're not going to call it over yet. We're going to go out there and prepare the best race cars that we can, try and be as fast as possible. The two's not going to lay his guns down, and we're not done yet either. 9 races is a long way to go. You never know what can happen. We're just going to go out there and try and run the best that we can, put the best finishes in the books that we can, and hopefully narrow that point margin even more than what we're at now. So Doug's been very consistent. He's had fast race cars, and he's been doing a good job. So we just need to mirror that and, hope that everything goes in the right direction. 34 points is a decent spread, but I think, it can be made up right now.
A couple of races coming up at Stafford and Thompson, and then the last 7 races. And our graphics guy, Robbie Mays, just put up the schedule for those watching the show. 7 races at 7 different racetracks in the final 7 events of the season. How many unknowns are there for the teams going into a couple of new facilities in Seekonk and Oswego? I know you got a lot of drivers run Seekonk and some open events. Is there a lot of unknowns going into those final events at some of these newer facilities?
Yeah, there's always going to be unknowns with the setup and stuff like that. The Tour hasn't been to these tracks in quite some time. Some of the drivers have been, and they've run at Seekonk, they've run at Oswego, so that'll definitely help some of the guys out. I haven't been in either one, so it'll be interesting, that's for sure. We're hoping to get maybe a test session in at Seekonk, that's for sure. But Oswego's a little far away from home, so there's always going to be unknowns. I mean, even these racetracks that you've been to, 2 or 3 times, there's still times you show up there and you struggle. So, that's what racing's all about. Some days you hit it right on the head, some days you're off, but it'll be interesting. Those 2 tracks will definitely throw a little bit of a monkey wrench into things, and hopefully we can capitalize and come away with some good, strong runs at those 2 tracks, and hopefully that'll catapult us to running very well and hopefully finishing very well in the points.
Okay, don't worry about Oswego, because this is what's going to happen. This isn't out for public information yet.
Oh, boy.
But Super Dirt Week has moved to Oswego. That's October, which is usually Charlotte Week. But they got to do a lot of preparation, Timmy. They got to get the dirt on the track early. So we're going to change your Wheel and Modified Tour race to a dirt race September 3rd. Would that be okay?
Yeah, that sounds pretty cool. I mean, the truck's doing it at Eldora, so it'll be
there you
cool.
go.
I'll say, it worked for the truck.
No, they are not doing it that early, I promise you. But that's interesting that you're going back to Oswego. One other thing, it was just talking about the health of the program. Kyle and I always talk to drivers about it. It looks to be so healthy. Not just yourself and Doug Kobe, a great points battle with Donnie Leah and Justin Bosignor nipping at your heels, but so many new, young, fresh faces. Max Zackham, a driver that came very close to a victory earlier this year. You're looking at rookie Matt Swanson, Brendan Bach, some other names that are future stars in this sport that are coming up right behind you guys very quickly.
Oh, without a doubt. That's what the tour needs. It needs fresh faces. It needs some new people out there. So it's always good to see these young guys coming out and running strong. I mean, Swanson's put in some really good runs this year. Bach has put in some really good runs. You got Craig Lutz. He's running strong. So Zackham's been running very well. So you got a bunch of different, it's a little bit diverse, and there's a bunch of different guys that are running well. And no matter if they're big teams, small teams, in the middle, everybody's putting in a really good effort. And that's what's putting the fans in the seats, as long as they have that diversity and they have different guys coming in, it always makes it good for the fans to find some new people to cheer for. So that's always cool.
And averaging about 28 cars throughout the first 8 events of the year, so you can't complain about that either. Timmy, as always, thanks for joining us here on NASCAR Coast to Coast. Congratulations on the win at the Monadnock Speedway this past weekend, and best of luck to you when you get back on track at the Stafford Motor Speedway a week from this Friday night. Thanks, guys. Always a pleasure being on. Timmy Solomito joining us. It's been an up and down kind of a track for him at Stafford this year. A 4th-place effort in the Spring Sizzler, and then a 23rd-place effort in the second race there with an accident a couple of weeks ago, trying to turn that around and finish up where he finished in the Sizzler next Friday night, the next event, the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour. When we come back, we go north of the border, talk to a NASCAR Whelen All-American Series driver making a name for himself at the Sunset Speedway. Ran for the national championship a year ago. Has a little bit of work to do in the second half of this season to get back up toward the top. We'll see if he can do it. We'll talk to Taylor Holdaway after the break.
NASCAR Coast to Coast will be right back on MRN.com.
Whatever you drive, wherever you go, Hercules Tires will get you there, whether you're running on dirt or running a job. Our dependable, high-quality tires are the perfect fit for your needs. For unmatched value, selection, and warranty with industry-leading road hazard protection, there's only one choice: Hercules Tires. To learn more, visit HerculesTire.com or call 800-677-9535. Hercules Tires, right on our strength.
The 2016 drag racing season is off and running, and MRN's Straight Line is your weekly source for everything NHRA.
Hey, Erica, so you were in a Chevy for a long time, and now all of a sudden in a Dodge.
We've had to build an entire new engine program at our shop.
Join Marty Huff and Doug Herbert every Thursday at noon Eastern on MRN.com, brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts and Hercules Tires. It's the Straight Line, only on the Motor Racing Network.
Motor Racing Network, glad to have you aboard for our coverage of practice, something we will be doing all throughout the year.
They are pretty close in practice.
You said you learned a lot in practice.
We can have a good, clean practice.
How many teams are going to opt out of practice?
Get this practice session underway.
As we close out practice. What are we talking about? Practice? We're talking about practice, man.
We are talking practice. Sprint Cup Series practice on the Motor Racing Network. Join us all season long on MRN.com and the MRN app.
This is NASCAR Whelen Southern Modified driver Jason Myers, and you're listening to NASCAR Coast to Coast on MRN.com. Now back to Kyle and Buddy.
And the NASCAR Whelen Southern Modified Tour, they have a couple more weeks off, or one more week, I think.
August 6th. Next weekend, there'll be Strutmasters.com 199, and they have only got 5 weekends left. It is that far into the season already.
And I'm sure we'll go to Charlotte in October, and there'll be 4 drivers within 30 points looking for the championship.
Yeah, Burt Myers has a chance to win the modified title on the tour and the Bowman Gray title as well, so he's in good place.
Yeah.
Brother Jason's got some work to do.
Season's winding down, as it always does so quickly at Bowman Gray Stadium and on the Southern Tour. Also, a short season is the NASCAR drivers up in Canada. They start late. They start in May, and they're done in late September. Taylor Holdaway joins us now, and that may be part of the reason why he's not able to contend for the championship this year. 23rd in points, a ways to go. And I know, Taylor, you guys have had a couple of rainouts, but you've had seemingly a really solid season at the Sunset Speedway, picking up your 6th win of the season this past week, part of a double feature program for the late models at Sunset. Congratulations on the weekend. But has that been the case? Some rainouts keeping you guys from being up toward the top, contending for the Division I championship like you were last year?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I think we've had one rainout so far this year. Obviously, we're starting off we're always gifted with a short season, unfortunately. So we're a little bit behind the 8 ball. I mean, to start the year, whereas a lot of other drivers, as you can see up near the top, already have 26 to 28 starts. We're lucky if we get that throughout the year. But I mean, we're off to a really good start again this year. Looking back, comparing it to last year, we're about even with where we started last year, and we're able to make a climb in the second half of the year and contend for the national championship. So the track's put in a couple more races for us this year, so hopefully we can get to those drops and not get any rainouts and drop a couple of our bad finishes and see if we can't contend for another top 5 in the national points again this year.
Well, I think that climb is coming. I think we're both waiting for it to happen, and I think it is going to happen for you as well. But you've got some very stiff competition up there this year. You're battling Brandon Watson. He was one of the winners over the weekend. He has had a good season, but also Gord Shepard, another driver that's been very good. You guys have a very tight points battle, not only there at Sunset, but in the Ontario standings overall in the Whelen All-American Series.
Yeah, for sure. Gordy and I are definitely battling it out this year. He's been consistent every week. I mean, we've had a couple races where we've been on the short end of the stick a little bit, and obviously our first night out we caught on fire, had a mechanical issue, and that took us out of the race running third, where we were contending for a win. And there's been a couple other ones we were leading on the last lap and got spun out. And so we've easily could have had 8 or 9 wins this year, but he's got 1 win, but he's been consistent every week. So there's 2 different ways you look at the year. I think going in, you either go out and try to run consistent, but we all know running consistent isn't going to win you a national championship. So our main goal has been to just go out and contend for wins. And if you don't win, I mean, it's just one of the consequences you're going to take for the track points. But we're there to try to be up top in the top 5 again. So we're running for wins every weekend, and I think that's showing with the stats.
Car count will also help you win a Division I championship, and it's something that we talk to all the NASCAR Whelen All-American Series drivers about, whether it be Matt Bowling or Keith Rocco, Chase Purdy, Ted Christopher. How are the car counts looking up at Sunset? From the results that I've looked at, you guys not only fill the field in Division I for the late models, but every division that competes there have 24, 25, 30 cars that compete every week. It's impressive, the car count that Sunset Speedway tracks on a weekly basis.
Yeah, I mean, Sunset, they're doing it right up there for sure. I mean, I think they're one of the top tracks in Canada anywhere you can go with the facility they have and the car counts and the fans. And they just put together a great program week in and week out. I mean, I think we range from 24 to 26 late models every night between 2 features. So it's not like we're struggling to get to a full field. And the biggest thing at Sunset is you have 18 cars that are pretty good cars too. So you have 12 to 15 cars that can win on any night. So I think that's where you're seeing the points are so close this year, is because you have so many guys that win, and if you're off a little bit, it's not like you're finishing 5th. You're back 11th, 12th, battling for a top 10. So the car counts are good, the racing's good. We just gotta keep plugging away here and see if we can get a couple more wins in the second half of the year.
Car counts are very good. You mentioned on the other side of the fence, how's the crowd been? And I want to go back to the June race when the NASCAR Pinty Series was there. Alex Tagliani scored the victory. Is it very comparable to what we have here in the States when the K&N Series will visit a Stafford Motor Speedway or a Dominion and, of course, the late models or a support class? Do you see even more droves of fans coming out for the Pinty Series, or is there already a pretty strong following in the grandstands on a weekly basis at Sunset?
Yeah, there's definitely a strong following of the weekly racing fans that are there every week. Obviously, when the division like the top division like the NASCAR touring division comes in, you're going to fill the fans up with the people that kind of travel and watch those series run. They don't run too many oval tracks in Ontario. They're mostly in Quebec and out east. So when they do make one of their 2 stops at the Ontario Oval, definitely see the crowd fill up, and they put on a good show this year, and the crowd was full, and it was a good race for sure. But I'm not taking away from anything for what we put on weekly. I think we put on good shows every week, and the crowd show, and you can see that with the amount of people that come and watch.
One of the mini stock drivers, Kendra Adams, posts in-car video of her races every week from Sunset Speedway, and that's one of the things I look at is the crowd. And it's a spectacular crowd, whether it be a weekly show or when the NASCAR Pinty Series is there. So the following is there. I want to talk to you about the NASCAR Pinty Series. I think we might have touched on it last year at the awards banquets last December. Is there any Pinty's opportunity for you, the national series for NASCAR up in Canada?
I mean, there's been a little bit of interest for sure. Obviously, we're a family-run team, family-run operation, so we don't have any full-time crew or anything. It's just a bunch of guys volunteering and putting in a lot of work for my program. So we don't have a lot of the funding behind that some drivers do. So I'm fortunate enough to do what I do, running the late model deal. And obviously, if the opportunity ever presented itself, me as probably as much as most drivers would jump at the opportunity if the funding was there behind me to run a couple Pinty Series races, and maybe in the next couple of years that may happen. But as of right now, I'm content with running Sunset and battling for the national championship and seeing if we can make a climb up here in the second half of the year.
So speaking of that, are you kind of points watching a little bit? Because when you look right above you, there are a ton of drivers that are well attainable right now in just 1 week's time. You could catch quite a few of them. Are you finding yourself kind of waiting like a kid on Christmas morning for the Wheeling All-American Series updated standings to come out to see how you've progressed?
Yeah, I mean, right now it's kind of a tough spot to be going in and looking at. Obviously, when you look at the points, you see the guys that are up at the top. Matt Bowling with over 600 points in that. They've already reached their full 18 races. I mean, we're still sitting here at 13, and we're only 230 points out. So as much as it seems like a lot, we still have 5 more races until we even start hitting into the drop, where we've had a couple less than par finishes, obviously a 0 when we caught on fire in that. So the way I look at it is we have 7 races to gain 230 points, whereas when Matt's winning, I think he's got 18 top 5, so he's pretty much has to win to gain on his points, which I learned a lot last year. It really comes in big the last couple weeks of the year. So we have 7 races to go out there and try to win as many races as we can and get into the drops, and I think that's where you really start to see it, is once you, up until those 18 races, you'll see us hopefully keep climbing, and then once we get to the 18 into the drops, hopefully we're somewhere around the top 5 where we can start racing for wins in the last couple weeks of the year.
Because if memory serves me right, it was the last month of the season.
Oh, he
where
kicked tail. He came up through there.
Yeah, he did. And so we'll see if that can happen again this year. There is no second track for you to run, right? It's pretty much Sunset Speedway, and that's pretty much what you're locked into.
Yeah, that's the only track in Ontario that's NASCAR sanctioned. And, I mean, anything that's even New York State border-wise, obviously they're all modified. So there's nothing Division 1 around anywhere in Ontario or even stateside that allows us to go and run with the rule package that we have. So we're just forced with one track. We have double features every night. This weekend is going to be a big one. We have triple 35 laps. So going to have to definitely survive the first 2 and hopefully be there at the end to try to have a good run in the third one and see if we can gain some points this weekend.
3 races in one night with
and that's
full
kind
fields.
of unheard of this day and age. You see a lot of twin races, but you don't see many triples anymore.
And twin 35s for the late models this weekend. Taylor, best of luck to you this Saturday night at Sunset Speedway. We'll be watching via the internet and see if you can vault your way, maybe get up into the top 20 and toward the top 15 in the championship standings. 3 races could go a long way in doing that this weekend.
Yes, thank you guys. Thanks for having me. Always a pleasure.
Taylor Holdaway joining us. Top 5 in the Division I standings a year ago for the NASCAR Whelen All-American Series and doing very well for himself at Sunset Speedway midway through their season. I guess it probably past midway through their season, getting toward the month of August. When we come back, we'll review this past weekend as far as what occurred throughout the rest of the NASCAR Whelen All-American Series and preview a busy weekend ahead on NASCAR Coast to Coast.
Coming back with more of NASCAR Coast to Coast, it's Kyle Rickey and Buddy Long right after this.
O'Reilly. Has the summer heat taken a toll on your vehicle's battery? Count on O'Reilly Auto Parts for the Superstart battery that's right for your vehicle. For a limited time, purchase a Superstart Premium, Extreme, or Platinum battery and get up to a $15 O'Reilly gift card by mail. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better better prices every day. Limits apply. See store for details.
O'Reilly Auto Parts. It's time to start pouring concrete, and the Housby Mixer System is ready for the job. The Housby Mixer System was created specifically with the driver in mind. All controls and specs are completely customizable to your operations. Our durable, driver-friendly mixer can be mounted on all truck types, and our expert support is second to none. On-site and live phone support is just a phone call away. For more information, visit Housby.com. Housby, an official sponsor of NASCAR for over 40 years.
Live sports are the one true reality entertainment, where a single dramatic moment can become timeless. In NASCAR, Motor Racing Network's live broadcasts elevate your senses to the sights, sounds, and struggles taking place on the racetrack.
Keselowski to the bottom of the racetrack. He tries to slide up. Newman is there. Sideways is Keselowski.
The power of radio to the imagination of the listener. Tune in to the Motor Racing Network. Visit MRN.com for an affiliate list in your local area.
This is NASCAR K&N Pro Series East driver Dominique Van Weringen, and you're listening to NASCAR Coast to Coast on MRN.com. Now back to Kyle and Buddy.
And a quick update on Dominique Van Weringen, a hard hit in the NASCAR K&N Pro Series East race at New Hampshire. She had to be cut out of the car, was taken to the infield medical center where she was treated and released that day. Went home for some additional tests, make sure there was no concussion or anything. She has been cleared to race this weekend at the Iowa Speedway.
Good deal. NASCAR Penny Series, they're in action tonight, actually. They wrapped up another weekend of racing over the weekend at Edmonton International Raceway, the New Energy 300. Alex Tagliani taking his second win in a row, third of the season. He, Andrew Ranger, and Alex Labe, the only drivers that have won, but they'll be at Wyatt Group Raceway tonight for the Saskatoon 200. Good battle between Andrew Ranger and Caden Lapsovich in the series point standings.
Their season, like you mentioned a little bit earlier, winding down. The NASCAR Whelen All-American Series national standings. We have referenced that a couple of times this show. Matt Bowling is the championship leader with 26 starts and 7 wins. 23 points ahead of Keith Rocco, who has been struggling a little bit this year at the New London Waterford Speed Bowl. Rob Janovic picked up the win this past weekend. Chase Purdy picked up another pair of wins at the Greenville Pickens Speedway. He's up to third, 49 points back. Ted Christopher and Brendan Queen round out the top 5 in the National Division I standings.
And speaking of Matt Bowling, he did indeed score another victory at Southern National Motorsports Park over the weekend, part of the twin late model races there, joining Chris Chapman as winners at Southern National this week.
At the Colorado National Speedway in Tacoma, Colorado, Brett Yackey, the son of Bruce Yackey, who we talked about a lot on the show, picked up the late model win. Cody Vanderwall won in the Pro Trucks. They're back in action this Saturday night.
Congrats out to Dave Farrington Jr., the Pro Series winner at Beech Ridge Motor Speedway up in Maine, over Nick Cusack and Reed Lamford. They'll be back in action for another weekly show this Saturday night.
Mentioned a moment ago, Rob Janovic picking up the win in the SK Modifieds. His first win in that division in the last couple of years, a division that's been dominated by Keith Rocco the last several seasons. Ray Christian won in the late model division. They are back in action Saturday night.
Jason Durgan becomes the first repeat winner at Devil's Bowl Speedway and the Sportsman Mods on asphalt over Vince Quenville Jr. and Travis Bruno. Dirt track was off, but they'll have a midseason double-point championship race coming up this Sunday.
At the Beech Ridge Motor Speedway in Maine, Dave Farrington Jr. won in the Pro Series, Frank Ware won in the Sports Series, and Cole Watson in the Wildcats. They're back in action Saturday night.
Speaking of Monadnock, it was Jeff Rollins taking the Sportsman Modified win. Kimmy Rivets have a very good year.
Her best
Came
finish.
home second, and Eric Leclerc was third. They'll back in action this Saturday.
She's very excited and hoping to get her first win this week. Freddie Estelle, Fast Freddie, picked up the win in the Pro Stocks at the Seekonk Speedway in Massachusetts. Austin Blaze won in the late models. They're back in action this Saturday night as well.
Madison International Speedway found Jeremy Miller, the Super Late Model Triple Crown Challenge winner. Zach Riddle took the late model event.
Rob Belanger picked up the win in the Modifieds over Mark Johnson and Matt Shepard at Utica Rome Speedway on Sunday afternoon. Rocky Warner claimed another win in the Sportsman Modifieds. They're back in action this Sunday, July 31st.
Other action, it was Colton Nelson taking the Modifieds at Meridian Speedway over Russ Ward and Larry Hull, and Justin Popple second to Mike Eller at State Line Speedway in Idaho.
And who was the latest modified winner at Grandview Speedway in Pennsylvania?
It was Frank Cozy. All right. Announcer out there in Ohio. It's not Frank Cos, it's Frank Cozy.
PA announcer at Eldora Speedway struggled with that one last weekend. I want to thank Chris Wright, Timmy Solomito, and Taylor Holdaway for joining us. For Robbie Mays and Craig Moore, he is Buddy Long. I'm Kyle Rickey. We'll see you back here next Wednesday on NASCAR Coast to Coast on the Motor Racing Network.
This has been NASCAR Coast to Coast with MRN short track experts Kyle Rickey and Buddy Long. Tune in next Wednesday at noon at MRN.com for more talk from NASCAR home tracks and touring series. NASCAR Coast to Coast is also available on demand in the MRN.com Media Center or download from iTunes or Stitcher. NASCAR Coast to Coast is a production of the Motor Racing Network. All rights reserved.